Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a unique opportunity to be able to come back as a graduate who's just completed his second year of college and still knows a couple of familiar faces in the crowd, and I certainly have enjoyed meeting a couple of new ones as well. I graduated from Central Catholic 2 years ago, and now I'm a student at Penn State University in Central Pennsylvania studying meteorology, and my goal is to become a weather communicator and hopefully bring your weather to you someday on TV. Now, weather everywhere impacts what we do anywhere. And that's an interesting concept, but when you think about it, if you have a cookout on Saturday, and this weekend is a great example, and the forecast on Wednesday calls for a washout, well, you're probably going to reconsider your plans. And on a more global scale, if there's a hurricane that's roaring through the Gulf of Mexico and we have oil rigs and investments down there, then gas prices will rise, and you'll feel the impact if you're traveling or even the price of food at the market, things like that. Weather impacts literally everything, and meteorologists are becoming more necessary in analyzing risk and in analyzing how companies can invest and analyzing how weather in the future may change and impact our everyday life. For many meteorologists, it's kind of interesting because you can say that the weather bug kind of bit me early. As a fifth grader, I actually became really interested in the weather. My dad and I used to go skiing up in northern New England, and he would tell me, go on the different mountain websites and check out who has the most trails open. So I would go on, and I'd check Loon, and I would check Cannon, and Breton Woods. No, there's no familiarity in the last name there, unfortunately. But what happened from there is I became interested in checking out when snowstorms were going to come. And what led me further down that road is kind of interesting because at the beginning of this, Keyshawn said you kind of just need a spark to light an interest and light a passion. For me, one night I was watching Channel 7 in Boston, and I was in fifth grade, and at the time, the meteorologist on the news said we're looking for weather spotters to send us in snowfall reports and temperatures and whatnot from your own towns. So I emailed him without telling my parents. Now I'm in fifth grade, okay? And I emailed the chief meteorologist at a major market TV station saying, yeah, I would love to send you, information from my town. Well, he got back to me in minutes, and I wasn't the only teenager involved. I was the youngest, but there were a couple of other up-and-coming meteorologists who I actually ended up in school with at Penn State, which is kind of an interesting fact. But when I was in sixth grade, the Eagle-Tribune in Lawrence came and interviewed me, and at that point, I was at Timberlane Middle School, and I had actually begun my own website where admittedly only my grandparents and my aunts and my uncles kind of checked out what I was predicting about the weather at first. But from there, it really took off, and my weather observations really became mentioned on TV in Boston, and I was kind of the eyes and ears of my town in Atkinson. Now, when you watch the news on a typical day, they might report the temperature for Boston or for Lawrence or for Manchester. Weather spotters are needed, especially in times of severe weather, to kind of fill those gaps. And this map's a good example of that with varying snow totals. In my town, in this case, we have received about 8 inches, but only here in Lawrence, about 5. So weather spotters are meant to fill the gaps, and we don't only report for TV meteorologists. We actually call in to the National Weather Service, or now send in pictures when bad storms are moving through. Now, 5-6 years ago, it was rare to see pictures like this on TV, but as I'll talk about in a few minutes, really anyone can be a weather spotter now with the power of the iPhone. Everyone has a camera in their pocket, and everyone has access to social media, Twitter, Facebook, and email just in the palm of their hands. Well, then I developed this website, AtkinsonWeather.com, and as I mentioned, it was really small at first. Maybe my Nana or my grandpa checked it out to see what I was saying. But now it's in its 8th year, and every day, even when I'm at Penn State 500 miles away, I post my weather prediction for the Merrimack Valley, northern Massachusetts, and southern New Hampshire. And it's really become kind of a weather source for people in this area to get more of a hyper-local, kind of human-like forecast. And it's interesting as someone going into this field now because so many people can simply take out their iPhones and click on the app. Well, the interesting thing is most of those apps just have a little icon and a number. And if a snowstorm is coming, that's not going to tell you anything as to what the weather is going to be. So a big task for meteorologists going forward is attempting to be relevant. And I'm trying to do that in my work at Penn State, and they've been trying to teach that to us as well in terms of getting our message out in a clear way. Now, weather simply became part of my life, I guess you could say. And when I came to Central Catholic as a freshman, I'd already been a weather spotter for 3 or 4 years. So it was something just that I did in my everyday life. And I didn't really tell anybody about it when I came here as a freshman. It was just something that I did, and people who knew me kind of knew about it. But then the paper put this article in there, and from this point on, I was known as the weatherman in the halls of Central Catholic, and even had a little bit of pull, just a little bit, in terms of snow days. And I still get texts and Facebook messages and emails when snowstorms are coming, even though I'm not around here as much anymore. Now, since then, I've kind of taken on more of a professional role in terms of providing storm analysis and weather details to the Eagle-Tribune and a number of other outlets as well. But weather wasn't the only thing that I did. When I came here to Central Catholic, a lot of you knew me because I was a captain of the track and cross country teams. I was involved in student council, and I did a number of other things. So I had a wide range of experience here, and I think that that's helped me going into college, trying to pursue my passion, having gained experience in a number of different areas while I was a student here. All of this led me to study meteorology at Penn State. At one point, 1 in 3 meteorologists in this country were Penn State meteorologists. So our department has a really long history of improving in the field and working with research in terms of climate and weather and in trying to improve forecasts. So that led me to Penn State, and now I serve occasionally on TV, as head of the Penn State Campus Weather Service, where we are really trying to get ahead of the field and have our students that are at Penn State be aware of what's important in meteorology and what the best way to communicate weather to you at home is. And this summer, I actually have the opportunity to work with the meteorologists at Channel 5 in Boston. I'm serving as an intern there, and I'll be there a few days a week doing forecasting and things behind the scenes. So you may see my back on TV at one of those computers, but you won't see me on TV doing the weather just yet. Now, weather communication is changing, and that's really a theme of meteorology in our field going forward. You can get your forecast on TV every day, but as I mentioned, more and more people are just waking up in the morning and clicking on weather apps, and another big thing is social media. So a big issue going forward is how we, as meteorologists, can kind of stay ahead of the field and make our forecasts relevant. Well, one part of that is now everyone can be a weather spotter, whether you know it or not. In fact, when severe weather happens now, what I typically do, the first thing I do is I'll go to Twitter, and I'll type in the search bar, I'll type in tornado, or I'll type in thunderstorm. And this was just this week, someone saw a picture of a tornado forming in Miami, and that made it on TV in minutes. Conversely, people can send us things. Someone sent me this picture from Portsmouth a couple of weeks ago, or in bad weather, we can get really good views of storms in instants. Now, this all sounds great, but like anything with social media and with the web, there are people that post things that aren't necessarily accurate. One of the major issues that we've been dealing with this year is people posting pictures of past storms and past tornadoes acting like it's the current weather. So while social media has been great, on the other hand, it makes it a little bit more difficult for us because we have to use a filter and kind of filter through some of that information. So our biggest challenge as communicators, and meteorologists going forward is kind of a challenge that we all face. It's being ahead of the game and being ahead of the next step. And that's kind of been a theme here so far in a lot of these talks today, persistence and keeping up and getting ahead of the game. A couple of closing thoughts from me and a couple of kind of thought-provoking questions as someone who's in this field. If you have a passion, go after it. This has been something that I've been doing for 8-9 years now, and it's kind of interesting because I once dreamed of going to college and perhaps making a living off something that I enjoy doing. Well, now I have my first job in that field this summer. So it's kind of interesting following a passion and being able to pursue it. There will be challenges along the way, no matter how good you are at something. What I mean by that is I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a physicist. I would be much better suited in a business school or a communication school. But I sit down and I struggle through the math, and I've made my way through, and so far my grades have been pretty decent at Penn State. So even if you have people telling you that you might not necessarily be cut out for something, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. Like so many people here today have discussed, with hard work and with effort, it certainly is possible. And obtain a wide range of experience. And by that I mean don't just look down that narrow path. Meteorology is a very narrow path. It's just the weather. If you can gain a range of experience in different areas, it'll help you socially, it'll help you spiritually, and it'll help you academically as well, I sincerely believe. And now, as someone who recently graduated from high school and has completed 2 years of college, I think it's a little bit important for this audience to get a little bit of my idea as someone who's now in the shoes of a college student. Is what you plan to study what you really want to do with your life, or is it just about money? That's an interesting concept, because when I was here as a student, there were some people who said, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. I mean, I was driven down my career path at a young age, so I was certainly I was kind of the exception. But having been in college, just 2 weeks ago, one of my friends who's a mechanical engineer came up to me and said, Ryan, I find it really interesting. All of you who are in meteorology love what you're doing. And I said, yeah, you know, it's what we want to do. And we're all in the same classes, same physics, same math, same chemistry, same basic core classes. He said, I hate my major, and I'm just doing it because I want to make 6 figures at some point in my life. Well, you know, that's kind of the attitude that I don't think is the best attitude to have. I think if you have a passion for something and if you can make a living off it, whether it's $30,000, $80,000, $180,000, I think you should go for it, because you do have the potential to make a difference in the world. And one more thought that I have is, do you see yourself succeeding and fitting in at the school you are touring, applying to, or attending? College is expensive. There's no doubt about that. And I'm very thankful that I've had the opportunity to attend a university that I love and have met a lot of great people at, and I'm really enjoying. But I know people that apply to dozens and dozens of universities. Just think, I think that should be the most significant question that you answer when you attend college and attempt to go off to school. So, again, thank you very much. It's great to have the opportunity to come back and at least give some of my thoughts as a rising junior in college. Thank you.